Hello, my name is Michael Swinford. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the Veteran's Voice. We have a very special program lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about the death of a young girl, and we'll also talk about the birth of a horse, and we'll be talking about a battle-tested veteran of war. We'll tie all this together and introduce our guests right after this. Welcome back to the Veteran's Voice. I'd like to introduce my guest today. First of all, Mrs. Angie Falconite. She is a founder or co-founder and director at charity Cassidy's Cause. And Dr. Gordon Williams, who's a clinical psychologist here in the Paducah area. Glad to have you all on board today. I'm sure that some people are very interested in what this opening was, that how do we tie all this together. So Gordon, would you give us a little brief history of post-traumatic stress disorder and also traumatic brain injury?
Well, Mike, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's a fairly new term. It's only been around since the early 1980s, and it refers to what happens to normal people who are exposed to a very abnormal set of circumstances in which their life has been threatened in various ways. Obviously, people who are in the military, in combat situations, that's a life-threatening situation. But other people in civilian life also are vulnerable to post-traumatic stress disorder. I work with people who, in the aftermath of automobile accidents, who have been injured, they have PTSD, people who have been robbed, ladies who have been raped, law enforcement people who have just seen too much out there. There's a number of different situations that can cause post-traumatic stress disorder.
Would it be fair to say that stress is a factor in most post-traumatic stress disorders?
Well, stress is the main, is what causes the PTSD, and then continued feelings of stress in the aftermath of exposure to whatever the initial event was. That's the essence of it. That's why it's called post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
It's after the stress, after the event, that you continue to feel stress.
I think TBI, or traumatic brain injury, sort of speaks for itself.
Well, that it does, and there's a lot of that. Many people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, unfortunately, are suffering from TBI, and we hear about professional football players who have TBI in the aftermath of their football careers, and many people who are injured on the job in an automobile accident have TBI.
Now, I had the pleasure of being invited out to participate in a show of sorts at Cassidy's Cause, and I was very impressed by the professionalism of the people there, by what you're doing and how you're doing it. Would you explain to us the story of Cassidy's Cause, Angie?
I will. Thank you very much. We're very proud of our program. We started in 2014. We started with 16 riders that come to us once a week. We range from age 4 to 51, and they have all types of disabilities, from Down syndrome. We have a lot of autism. We have brain injuries in our program, a lot of cerebral palsy. But we started out thinking that we were going to be a small center, and a little over 2 years, we have 56 riders a week that come and ride in our program. So we've been very blessed in our community that we've got a waiting list of 10 that are waiting to get into our next session. So the growth and the need is very great in our area.
Do you anticipate an expansion in the near future? Are you going to have to expand your base of operation?
We will. Right now we're waiting for certification for our instructors. It takes almost a year for our instructors to go through a certification program through PATH, which is the organization that we belong to. That's Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship. And it takes almost a year for them to get certified. So the more instructors that we get, the more we'll be able to take on and the more we can do. So eventually we hope to open up on Fridays and Saturdays, whereas now we're only seeing 18 classes because of the lack of the instructors to be able.
What is your greatest need?
Donations, because we do not get grants or any kind of state or federal funding for our program. So donations that the companies, businesses, individuals give us is what runs our program. 100% of your donation goes back to running our program.
Well, every cause or every charity has a beginning. What acted as a catalyst to form this organization to help people?
I started as a volunteer downtown at a similar program. I was volunteering 2 or 3 times a week, helping with a child that had autism on a horse, and I was seeing such a huge difference in that child every week, and it was so inspiring and such an amazing experience to be involved in. I would come home and I would tell my husband stories, and he would see the excitement that I had and the love that I had, and it was changing my life. So one day my husband said, "Why don't we start our own program?" He said, "I want to come down and see what you're doing," and he said, "I want to start something and extend it out." And a goal of ours has always been to extend it once we were established and started to our veterans. And so we started our program with Dara Triplett. She's our program director, and we named our facility Cassidy's Cause after Dara's daughter, Cassidy, who died at the age of 9. Her love for horses and her just being a special girl has touched so many lives since we've opened Cassidy's Cause. So we named it after her, and she's the reason we're all together. So we have a beautiful young girl in heaven every day that watches over us and helps us.
Well, that would be very important in establishing a cause, because her memory will live on through others.
That's correct.
And there's no greater honor for a person that's deceased to have something carry on after their death to honor them in their life and such. I was very impressed when I visited you out about the young man on the horse that sang the Star Spangled Banner. I have heard it a million times, but I have never heard it with the passion and the soul that came out of that young man, and I was so proud of him for his attempting to do something that's difficult for anybody.
Yes.
But he pulled it off, and it was such a blessing for us. Gordon, you've been in the VA system for a while. You just recently retired. What Angie is saying about the therapy, would this be beneficial to Vietnam veterans or other veterans that face combat situations?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that, Mike. And the Department of Veterans Affairs has actually spent a sizable amount of research money taking a look at the question of, does equine therapy help when it comes to veterans who have post-traumatic stress disorder? And the answer has been a resounding yes. Just as Angie's talking about what she's seen in her work, people who've begun to use equine therapy with veterans have seen the same thing. There's a fellow psychologist out in Park City, Utah by the name of Laurie Cicada, and she's done some beautiful research following a group of veterans with severe PTSD who began equine therapy and seeing how they did over the course of the therapy, and they get to feeling much better more quickly than many veterans who are having traditional talking therapy and taking every medication in the pharmacy.
Do you think it would be possible for the VA and Cassidy's Cause to somehow merge in some kind of mutual benefit?
Oh, I think that's quite possible. Angie and I were talking before the show began, as far as there are connections that can easily be made here in this area with the VA hospital in Marion Illinois, and the VA outpatient clinic here in Paducah, Kentucky, the VA outpatient clinic in Clarksville, Tennessee. We have connections with all of those places, and it's just a matter of connecting the people. And I think it's very doable, and I think the people within the VA system would be elated to turn to these good folks for assistance.
Well, Angie, when did you first come up with the idea of maybe helping veterans with PTSD?
Well, ever since we've started our program, that's been a goal for us. We wanted to get really good at and establish our therapy for our disabled individuals first, and get that off the ground and running, and it's doing very well. Like I said, we have a waiting list for that. So once we got that going, it's been a goal of ours, and I know that horse therapy can benefit our veterans. I know we can help them.
How does, not being a technical person, but in this age of technology, we've gone backwards in time. I'm sure that throughout history, animals, particularly horses, have played an important part in maybe calming a person or helping a rider to maintain balance, or in some ways have always been able to help humans, but we're just now recognizing that it actually does work and it's available in a non-technical sense. But exactly what happens to the rider as he's riding this horse?
Well, we do not only physically, we improve the quality of the rider's well-being, but mentally as well. So our riders that would come to us with PTS, and they typically come with a lot of trust issues and relationship issues, self-esteem. There's a lot of things that they're going to come to us with, and in order, a horse is a direct mirror of a human being. They mimic you, and in order for those veterans to bond and develop a relationship with their horse, they have to change what's on the inside. And they have to trust their horse, they have to learn to love and build relationship with their horse. That's the physical or the mental part. But the physical part is if we have someone that comes to us that may have lost an arm or a leg, physically riding the horse mimics the closest to a human walk. And they will strengthen not only their core, their balance, all of their muscles. You use just about every muscle in your body when you ride a horse. So physically, they're going to be getting a lot out of coming and riding, for maybe 30 minutes.
It sounds like something that is needed. What would be the criteria for a veteran to take part in this program? Well,
we're hoping that when we partner, with the VA system, that we will get referrals for different ones that they think would be a good match for us, and start a pilot program. Eventually, we'll be able to get veterans that can help be sidewalkers and horse leaders that have similar experiences, that are able to communicate and bond with our riders, so that they build a special family bond together.
Gordon, being you're in the private sector now, would you anticipate in the future maybe referring someone to Cassidy's cause?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I continue to work with many veterans who choose to come our way in addition to going to the VA. In fact, I had a gentleman in my office this morning who fought in Iraq and was in the worst of the fighting. And as I get to know him and he gets to know me, and as Angie's program begins to move forward, I would likely talk to him about, would you possibly be interested in being involved with their horse therapy program as an addition to what we're trying to do. So I would have no hesitation in doing that whatsoever, none. I think it'd be wonderful.
Do you think other animals would be beneficial also, like dogs, or just the whole animals kingdom?
No. Again, the research is already showing that that's true. Dogs are being used, dolphins are being used, there's all kinds of animals. And in some ways, I think we're going back to, as you say, we're going back to rediscovering people have known for years. The French used a form of equine therapy in the 1700s to help some of their soldiers. So this is nothing new. It's being rediscovered by good people like Angie and her folks.
Angie, are you currently working with any PTSD patients?
No, we don't have our program started yet.
Okay.
We're in the process now of doing the research and opening doors and finding people that can lead me in the right direction so that we can start our program. We're working on getting a instructor that's what they want to do is help the veterans, and we're looking for volunteers, to help with those. We have over 100 volunteers a week that come and help us with our disabled individuals that come. So we're going to need a whole nother group of volunteers that can come and help us with our veterans as well.
To me, it sounds like a God thing.
Yeah, it will be beautiful. Once it's started, it'll be an amazing experience, not only for us, but for the riders that come there. And I know it is a happy place. It's very spiritual place. There's a lot of things that people get out of coming just to the arena that may not even be enrolled in our program.
Thinking back over 40 years, I used to write a lot of poetry trying to ease the pain. And I wrote a story or a long poem about a donkey from the donkey's point of view. Of course, he had been mistreated and he was pretty much a nothing on this earth but a poor donkey. But the end of it was that he had carried into the city the King of Kings on his back. Therefore, he's done something that no other animal has done. And to take that from there to what's happening today, it's not too much of a leap to understand the spirituality of the program.
Right.
I know when we were there, I could feel that, the love, and it was just in the air.
Yeah.
And Gordon knows I've been a pretty cynical person most of my life, but I was impressed, and it touched my heart, that the love that's shown between all segments of what you're doing out there. And Gordon, is there a greater increase in PTS today?
Well, there's a greater awareness of it. I suspect it's been a part of mankind since the very beginning of the Civil War. There was all kinds of post-traumatic stress disorder, but nobody talked about it. But the government estimates are that 1/4 of the people returning from the Middle East are suffering from symptoms that would qualify as PTSD. And all of the things that are going on in our society, all of these surprise events, the terrible shooting in Kansas yesterday and some of these other events, there's a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder out there. It's hard to keep up with the demand for help for these kinds of things.
Well, one of my main concerns right now with the Vietnam veterans I see, we're losing too many by taking their own life. And we've got to intercede somehow with something. That's why your program is very unique in a lot of ways. But we've got to stop these men and women from taking their life. There's got to be a way to diffuse PTS to a livable degree, maybe not totally eradicate it because there's probably no real cure, but through medication, through the VA and through counseling like Dr. Williams, that we can at least make their life important again and give them hope that there's a better world coming.
That's right.
And I think that's probably the same message you're trying to purvey, that things may not be going real good today, but give us a chance to work with you and they buy into this program. Take me through a typical day that you have at Cassidy's Cause.
Our classes are 1 hour long. However, with the veterans, we would probably extend that to more of a 2-hour class for maybe 8 to 12 week sessions because there's so much to accomplish and it's hard to get all that done in 1 hour. But a lot of the same aspect and the same criteria and program is basically the same, but the veterans would be more involved with the caring aspect of the horses. So they're going to bond, that'll create a relationship, a bonding with them, trust with them, but they're going to groom the horses, which is therapeutic in itself. Just to be around a horse, smell a horse, and to touch a horse is very therapeutic. But they're going to be responsible for coming there because that horse has to be fed that day. That horse has to be groomed, cleaned up. It may have to have a farrier come and trim its feet. So there will be a lot of responsibility that they're going to do and learn all about horsemanship before they ever even get on the back of a horse. Whereas our riders that come to us for disabilities, they get on the horses immediately because we're trying to get a lot of physical you know, strengthening of their core and help with their balance. But our veterans is going to be, it will be more tailored to building bonds, relationships, and trust, and building that friendship with their volunteers, that they have an extended family. We're going to give them a purpose to come get out of bed and come to us because there's a horse there that needs you.
Would it be safe to say that the horse and the rider help each other?
Oh, absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
there's a connection, that the energy and the hope that is transferred
Yes.
from the rider to the horse and from
Oh,
the horse to the
absolutely.
rider,
Yes.
which is a very unique thing.
Yeah. Our horses can detect a lot of things. They're amazing creatures. They do things every day that we don't teach them to do. They're our therapists. We have no therapists at our barn. Our horses are our therapists.
I notice with animals we're opening up a whole new world because they're starting to use rats in Cambodia to detect minefields that we've left over from the war and whatnot. So animals are going to play a bigger part in our role as humans, I think, in the future. And you're sort of on the ground floor and you're building and you're growing, and if we could hear everybody's story that's taking part in your program, I'm sure it would be heart-touching.
Yes.
And Gordon, with the degree of PTSD in the world today, is there anything that could signify a change? Is it the public perception changing, or is it the veterans' perception, or is there any change in the wind that can make this situation better?
Well, you know, I think we probably are going to need to get back to basics as far as people trying to look out for one another, trying to do things like what Angie's talking about. There's, you know, you mentioned earlier, Mike, that cynicism that you've had to deal with. There's such a sense of cynicism out there in the world, especially among the veteran population that would benefit from Angie's program, and it's just something that has to continue to be dealt with. There's a lot of distrust and a lot of cynicism out there, and that has to be changed.
Do you think the political landscape is adding to the problems some of the veterans have?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. If we look at the debates that are being held, those are certainly not cordial. They're just they're very self-destructive, and they're mean-spirited, and that has an effect on everybody.
And that's just opposite of what you're doing, because yours is all about love and faith and hope and change. And don't want to sound like president, but
just very quickly, the challenge that you all will face. I was doing a therapy group with all Vietnam veterans, and these guys were heavy combat veterans, and they were talking about their distrust in government, their distrust in people, their distrust in everything. And one of the guys stood up and said, you know, hearing all you guys talk, this reminds me of something that Mark Twain once said. I thought, oh no, what's this going to be? He said, Mark Twain once said, the more people I meet, the better I like my dog. And that group then presented me with a plaque that says that, and said, here, Williams, put this in your office. And I said, well, what kind of an attitude does that portray? They said, that's the kind of attitude that we have at this point. And that lives on in a lot of these veterans. So the good work that she's talking about doing will hopefully change that mindset, but so many of those folks have that mindset.
well, as this program is going worldwide, we may hear from a lot of different people that are willing to help or maybe donate a few dollars or what, because as causes go, this is one of the better ones, and the money stays here locally in our area to help. And sometimes people ask for donations, and they're in California. We don't know what happens to that money.
That's right.
But here we know, because you live among us and you're a part of the community, and I'm 100% behind your program.
Thank you.
I don't know that I'm able physically to volunteer much, but I think we can help in other ways by just spreading the word that what is available to veterans. And I think you're taking a great big step, but there are people that will stand behind you on this issue and help you as you continue to grow. And I would like you to pass that along to your co-founder, that we got a battle plan working, and we don't lose, we win.
That's right.
And the people you work with and take care of, they're winners too. And Gordon, is there anything finally you'd like to say that we maybe haven't talked about today?
Well, the only thing I would say is I welcome the program that Angie and her colleagues are going to be doing. I think it'd be wonderful, because there's so much need out there as far as the veteran community is concerned. The need is overwhelming.
Where do you get your strength from, Angie?
Those 56 riders that come in every day, I get those hugs and those smiles and the joy in their face. That's what makes me go on every day, continue to do what we do, for them to tell me that they love me and that I am part of their family. And they're so appreciative. You learn a lot from people that have a disability, and they're amazing individuals.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming to visit us today. I'm sure there's some questions we missed, but if we did, we'll have you on again sometime. And to the audience out there, if you have a desire to help in Cassidy's cause, well, go out there and see what it looks like. Visit with them and see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and who they're really helping. And if you feel led to help clean up the place, why, volunteers are always needed, and money is always good, because it is an expensive operation, but the good that comes out of it is tremendous. So again, Dr. Williams, Angie, Falconite, I thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.